Welcome to the Lifecast, valuing life and transforming lives. Find out more at elifenetwork.com. Here now is your host, Rich Bennett.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to this episode of the Lifecast. Thanks for being with us. This episode of the Lifecast is made possible in part by Christian Brothers Rockrimmon, and we're so grateful for their support. As always, you can find more about them in the show's notes. And in just a few minutes, I am going to be joined by my friend Diane Ferraro, who is the driving force behind Save the Storks, which is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting pregnancy centers across the country that empower women with hope, resources, and compassionate care. But before we do that, let's dive into our 3 life-affirming things that you should know, starting with our national story this week, which takes us to Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Food and Drug Administration quietly made a major move. On September 30th, the FDA approved a new generic version of the abortion drug mifepristone. The company behind it, Avita Solutions, says its mission is to normalize abortion and make it accessible to all. While pro-life leaders are sounding the alarm about this development, calling the FDA's decision both reckless and dangerous. Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America President Marjorie Dannenfelser put it this way: these dangerous drugs take the lives of unborn children, place women and underage girls at risk, they empower abusers, and trample the pro-life laws enacted by states across the nation. In fact, as you've heard on the Lifecast, a new study released this year shows that 1 in 9 women who take the abortion pill experience severe complications such as hemorrhaging, infection, or even sepsis. And without medical oversight, those risks only grow. And because the Biden administration removed in-person requirements, abortion drugs are being shipped by mail with no ultrasound to confirm gestational age or to detect a potentially life-threatening ectopic pregnancy. There's also a disturbing trend of these pills being misused, with reports growing of abusive partners secretly slipping these drugs to women. All of this comes at a time when chemical abortions already account for nearly 2/3 of all abortions in our country. By approving a generic version, the FDA has effectively made these dangerous drugs easier and cheaper to obtain, with little regard for the consequences to women or their preborn children. Pro-life leaders are urging the FDA to, at a minimum, restore the common sense safeguards that were in place under the Trump administration, including in-person doctor visits. But until then, millions of lives remain at risk. Turning our focus now to Colorado, I want to roll together this episode's Colorado update with our story of hope. November 1st will mark the 1-year anniversary of our 4th pregnancy center located on the east side of our city in Falcon. And at our annual Life Network Gala 3 weeks ago, I shared that in just its first 10 months, 83 babies' lives have already been saved from abortion at that east side center alone. Isn't that incredible? Also at our gala, I did a brief interview with 2 members of our incredible team, Catherine Reyes, who leads our pregnancy services at Eastside, and nurse Erin Mace, who's one of our 11 staff nurses. And we want to play that 6-minute interview for you now, which you'll see includes not 1, but 2 stories of hope along the way. Let's listen. So, Catherine, I want to start with you. And before taking the role to lead our pregnancy services at Eastside, you also had a really important role managing our online patient chat. Tell us a little bit about how those online chats open the door with women who are often very determined or abortion-minded.
Yeah, so one of the beautiful things about the nurse chat is that it's 24/7. And so in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., we often see that nurse chat really buzz with activity because she's alone with her thoughts and her troubles and the things that are on her mind. And so those nurses get an opportunity to engage right in that moment when she could allow that quick decision to kind of flood her thoughts, though that nurse chat is available there, kind, empathetic, and ready to meet her.
So from there, you moved to the East Side Center role, which we've been open just over 10 months, which means we're coming up on a year at that location. Can you believe it?
It's come so fast.
So in those first 10 plus months, can you share about some of the impact that you've seen and maybe share a story from those first 10 months at our East Side Center?
Yes, so in addition to the rest of our centers, I think one of the beautiful things is that our city is surrounded by centers. And so in that moment, we're near and accessible, and we often get women who have seen our sign who come by and are seen and met right in that moment. The story that comes to mind is about a young woman who came in, and she had so much going on in her life. She'd experienced significant grief, and some of that grief had led her to some choices that made her very concerned about the pregnancy and if it would be healthy pregnancy. And so on top of already being in really difficult circumstances, she was wondering if maybe her choices had led to even more complicated life. And so we were there to meet with her and connect in that moment. And our patient advocate asked, well, do you have any pregnancy symptoms? And she said, well, I can feel the baby kicking. And that was pretty significant. We usually get to meet her earlier. But what was beautiful was the East Side was there to meet her and connect and get her the medical care that she needed. And then beyond that, what resulted was a few months later, our patient advocate was continuing to reach out and connect with her. And we found that a new little life had come into the world, healthy and a joy to that mama.
That's awesome. So Erin, as one of our nurses, you get the opportunity to be there in those special ultrasound moments. But just going back before that, paint a picture of, in a typical ultrasound with a woman who's vulnerable to abortion. What is she feeling? What is she thinking? How do we meet her there?
It's really interesting when you first go out to meet one of the girls that are either determined or complicated and they're considering abortion, and you can just see on their face that they're lost. They're feeling so many things. They're feeling scared. They're feeling pressure from outside sources. They feel unsure. And just meeting them there, I usually just pause right at the beginning of the appointment and just say, how are you feeling? Usually I lead with, how are your symptoms? And then more importantly, I ask, how are you feeling about the pregnancy? And that really gives them the opportunity to pause and think about that and then answer it without anybody else in the room with them, just their feelings.
So Erin, about 7 in 10 women that we saw this past year, abortion was at least on the table. It was in the consideration set. Talk a little bit about those extra hard appointments and what those look like.
It's really interesting that doing the ultrasound is something you can't deny, right? You can see a pregnancy test and say, oh, that's not true. We often hear that they take 10, 15. Doesn't change the result. But with an ultrasound, being able to see a baby that's wiggling, a heartbeat that's flickering, that's not something you can deny. And watching their faces change in that moment, there's giggling, there's crying, there's silence, and you just see God moving in each and every one of their hearts. Some of them don't choose life in the end, or we don't know, but like you mentioned, so many of them do.
So can you share a story from the ultrasound room from this past year that just really sticks in your mind?
Yes, this girl, she impacted so many of us, and we each got an opportunity to just minister to her in such a powerful way. She actually started at our Fountain location, came in, was pretty far along in her pregnancy, but really connected with the nurse there. And then we ended up seeing her for early pregnancy care, which is where we have our nurse practitioner who does what you would have done at like a first OB appointment. So really another opportunity to care for her and meet her where she's at. And that was where I got to interact with her, was in the early pregnancy care appointment, and just encourage her. She was addicted to drugs. She didn't think she could parent. She knew, though, that she didn't want to abort. And she made the courageous choice to try and get clean. And then also she ended up making an adoption plan, and that baby is now in the loving arms of a family who really cares.
Would you please thank Catherine and Aaron for sharing this evening? By the way, if you want to hear more from Nurse Erin, you should check out LifeCast episode 28, where I sit down with her to discuss the life-affirming work of our nurses at Life Network in depth. And as you heard from Catherine, in just its first year, our Falcon location has rounded out the care that we provide citywide so beautifully with its presence in what is the fastest growing part of our city. And next door to this center is, of course, our second Life Network Family Thrift Store, which has thrived since opening in January. And, of course, rounding that location out are our administrative offices, which relocated to this same facility in April and now is giving us more room to see patients at our busy galley location. And those galley renovations are underway right now and are due to be completed by the end of 2025. Coming up next, I'll be joined by Save the Storks CEO Diane Ferraro, who leads a movement rooted in compassion and faith as the leader there. Stay with us. You're listening to the LifeCast.
My name is Alyssa. When I found out I was pregnant, I wasn't ready to be a mom, and I planned to get an abortion. But at Life Network, a volunteer named Nancy met me with compassion. She listened, answered all my questions, and followed up with me, even when I told her I was still considering ending my pregnancy. She never judged me or gave up on me. Her care helped me realize I wasn't alone. Because of Nancy and volunteers like her, I chose life for my baby.
Life Network relies on volunteers to serve women like Alyssa. Whether you're a patient advocate, parenting coach, nurse, or willing to serve at our growing thrift store, there's a place for you here. Visit elifenetwork.com/volunteer to learn more. That's elifenetwork.com/volunteer.
Welcome back to the LifeCast, where every episode we share real stories and important conversations that affirm life, inspire hope, and celebrate the work of pregnancy centers like those at Life Network. And today, it is my pleasure to welcome a pregnancy center champion in Diane Ferraro. Diane is the CEO of Save the Storks, an impact-driven nonprofit that equips pregnancy centers with resources, education, and mobile medical units to support women nationwide. She's the author of The Soulful Experience and holds a BA in English from the University of Nevada. Diane, welcome to the LifeCast.
Thank you so much, Rich. I have admired you for many, many years, and it's such an honor to be on your podcast today.
Well, it's an honor to have you with us. And you have been here in our Colorado Springs community as CEO of Save the Storks for, I think it's 7 years now. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it. I actually started at Save the Storks in a marketing capacity. That was my background. And then I stepped into the CEO role about 4.5 years ago. And it's just been a tremendous privilege and a blessing to serve and bring glory to the work the Lord is doing. And of course, work alongside you in this great city.
Well, for those who don't know, what is the mission of Save the Storks? You're on that proverbial elevator. Maybe it's a really long elevator. What's the mission of Save the Storks?
Absolutely. Well, I actually have something for someone if I just had a few seconds to, engage with them. We definitely are here to revolutionize the meaning of pro-life. But what that really means is we are here to create a story of hope and empowerment for every woman facing an unplanned pregnancy. And what this means to me is being an adopted child, not knowing much about my story until I was 26 and meeting my birth mother. And now I have a really in-depth understanding of what that birth mom goes through when she's facing an unplanned pregnancy. And it is just incredible to learn from her. She's 83 years old now, and just understand from her what her unplanned pregnancy was like, why she almost aborted me, and then how I can use her story and my story to help encourage and equip and really pray for other women across the United States every day who are at that moment of decision.
Well, as the leader of a pregnancy center, I know pregnancy centers so appreciate the number of ways that Save the Storks comes alongside the work that we do. And you're probably best known for providing mobile medical units to pregnancy centers. I think you have over 100 of those nationwide. But talk about how those are strategically used to support women and rescue babies from abortion.
Yes. Well, absolutely. We are known for those mobile medical clinics, which some affectionately call the Stork Bus. The first one went on the road in 2012. It's hard to believe it's been 13 years. And they really are ultrasounds on wheels. So we have taken these mobile medical clinics out to Planned Parenthoods, neighborhoods where colleges are located, bars, any area where there might be young women at that moment of decision. And we really want that mobile medical clinic to be there to intercept her from that decision to have an abortion. And the fact that a woman can receive all free services on board a mobile medical clinic, receive loving licensed care from medical professionals, receive an ultrasound, she gets to see her baby on the ultrasound, hear the baby's heartbeat. It's really what you're doing in your wonderful pregnancy centers here, Rich, but we're bringing them to the streets, sometimes in areas where it is very hard to find maternal health care. And it is important to us, especially now with the abortion pill prevalent across the United States, that these mobile medical clinics can really intercept what the abortion industry is doing and empower a woman to make that decision for life and choose life abundantly when she knows she's loved and supported by the pregnancy center folks in her community.
You know, when I talk to center leaders around the country that have successful mobile medical clinics, it seems like they fit one of two profiles. They're either serving a highly rural community where access to medical care is challenging, or almost the reverse of that, they're in an urban community where the closest opportunity to get near an abortion clinic is a mobile medical clinic. Is it fair to say those are two of the common scenarios where you really see a mobile medical clinic be successful?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Rich. Rural communities, especially those maternal health care deserts where women live 100 miles or more from any kind of a hospital or, a pregnancy clinic, a women's health clinic, we want to make sure the mobile medical clinics can go out and serve that woman in those communities. Here in Colorado, oftentimes they might go into the mountain towns or areas where women just don't even have public transportation to get to a pregnancy clinic. Once we bring out that pregnancy clinic and we can meet her, we are going to make sure she can get the rest of her care at the pregnancy center that's nearest to her. We also are very well received in urban areas. I was in Pennsylvania a few weeks ago, and I was able to see firsthand where a mobile medical clinic really partners with the local pregnancy center. So the pregnancy center is near a college, but a lot of the women were living out in more rural areas. So the mobile medical clinic was able to go out to areas even near high schools, out near workplaces where women may not receive the care. Maybe they don't have insurance. And we're able to go out and provide the ultrasounds, the pregnancy tests, again, real women's health care with licensed medical professionals who care about life and love these young ladies and want them to choose life and do so with a lot of confidence. And the important thing about the work we do is that I keep saying intercept, but we do have to intercept these women because we know Planned Parenthood is aggressively targeting these women, and we have to have really every possible resource available to her so she can choose life before she is bombarded with what Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry is trying to sell her.
Think of the most creative or unexpected location that you've heard somebody successfully use a mobile medical clinic. What would that be?
Well, I have a couple, but one that comes to mind is in Iowa. One of our beloved pregnancy center executive directors decided to park her mobile medical clinic near a strip club. And I know that might be offensive to some people, but there are a lot of women working in strip clubs against their will, and they are the victims of, different types of abuse. And these women would come outside on their breaks, step on board the mobile medical clinic, have the, all the tests, for sexually transmitted diseases, for pregnancy. And they started to trust the professionals working on board the mobile medical clinic. It turned out that these women started to confide in the workers on the mobile medical clinic that they were being trafficked. And the executive director knew to get in touch with the FBI, and they ended up doing a big sting. And they basically busted the sex trafficking operation at a strip club. So think of the lives saved, not only with the women who stepped on board the mobile medical clinic and the baby's life saved, but the future lives saved from the women who were rescued from such a tragic, form of slavery that is becoming more and more common today. We also have a mobile medical clinic in Southern California. We partnered with the Orange County Rescue Mission. So we're able to go out to these areas that most people in America would assume are affluent and women don't need the services of a pregnancy center, but they do. There are women, again, who are really living under the radar, single moms in their cars, women in shelters, women who are in abusive relationships. And when we're able to meet her with love and compassion on that mobile medical clinic, we're able to have counselors step in, and then we provide her with what we call the 8 pillars of care. And that's where the local rescue mission makes sure that woman receives housing, education, childcare, financial support, legal support. It's just a beautiful picture of God's love and how God doesn't want any woman to sit on the sidelines and suffer. And the fact that the community is coming together with the local churches, the rescue mission, and this mobile medical clinic, and the local pregnancy center, who's owning, they really run the mobile medical clinic. We're able to meet women where they need that support. And the early report was there were 4 women who gave birth at the rescue mission because of the mobile medical clinic and the interception that our partners were able to provide for women who are, very vulnerable in Orange County.
Wow, how encouraging. Well, Diane, encourage us further with a story from a mom or a family that was impacted by a mobile clinic or a center supported by Save the Storks that just captures the heart of your mission.
Yes. Well, I was adopted as a baby, so adoption stories are always near and dear to my heart. And in New Jersey, there was a church that ran a mobile medical clinic, and they would take the mobile medical clinic out to the local schools, just like, Life Network does here in Colorado Springs. You have such a wonderful relationship. And when this mobile medical clinic was able to go out to the local junior and high schools, a lot of them were Christian schools, and they had the kids step on board and, do the tour, learn more about, what the local clinic was offering. Well, a year later, there was a young lady who discovered she was pregnant. She was a churchgoer. Her mother was a churchgoer. She went to the Christian school. And she thought she thought she should get an abortion because, a lot of Christians feel like they need to hide the sin. But she remembered the mobile medical clinic and the kindness of the local pregnancy center. And she found out where the mobile clinic was going to be, and she stepped on board, and she was nervous. She thought, oh my gosh, they're going to tell my mom, my pastor's going to know. And instead they met her without any judgment or shame. And they said, we're going to help you through this. And her decision at first was to choose adoption because she was adopted as a child. But after she spoke with her mom, the pastors got involved. And of course, the pastors were very loving and supportive of her. She made the decision to parent with the support of the local church. And in fact, she actually moved in with the pregnancy center executive director for a while because she really didn't have a place to go. She wanted someplace safe to live while she and her boyfriend were deciding, when to get married. So she was able to deliver her baby. The mother and father ended up getting married, and the church is still coming alongside her and supporting her. So again, I love the adoption stories, but we know that mothers are meant to parent as well. And when things work out, all the circumstances work in her favor, we love to encourage her to parent. Again, if she has the local support, the community support, and what's so critical is that church support to make sure she knows that she can attend church with her baby. And, she won't be that woman who people are casting stones at. Instead, people are going to come alongside her and love her and love her child.
While mobile clinics are one of the things that Save the Storks is best known for, you guys do more than that to support pregnancy centers like ours. Tell us about that.
Yes. So when we first started, we knew that mobile medical clinics were important, but we also knew that training was critical. And the people who are best equipped to run a mobile medical clinic are folks who are running the pregnancy centers, right? There's 50 plus years of experience running pregnancy centers, working with the local community. I had volunteered at a pregnancy center when I lived in Los Angeles, so I saw firsthand the power of that local community and the trust that's built with the churches and the community leaders. So what we build is what we call the National Partner Program. So we have a team of experts on staff that work with pregnancy centers around the United States to make sure that the boards are equipped in supporting their executive director or CEO. We make sure that we can help with fundraising efforts, because a lot of PRCs, unfortunately, are not well funded, because the local donors think, well, the church will take care of it. And the church thinks, well, no, the local donors will take care of it. So it's really educating some of the smaller PRCs that are newer on how to engage the local community on a, 12-month basis. So they never are really short of funds. We don't want anyone to feel like they are close to closing down, because of course, pregnancy centers are such a vital part of a community. We also come alongside them with marketing support, branding. There's some PRCs that are, they're just so beautiful and there's such good intentions, but in order to compete with the abortion industry, we have to show up in Google searches. We have to have a beautiful website so that young lady who is searching for abortion alternatives will find the local pregnancy center. We have to make sure pregnancy centers are really run like a medical office, and that's why we're helping them with AAHC certification, which is what you'll find at local surgical centers and ER rooms and some of the outpatient clinics. So we want to make sure we can help our pregnancy center partners operate where they're not being shut down as fake clinics or falsely labeled as a fake clinic. So it's really just this almost like a business approach to the PRCs, especially the ones with a smaller budget, who need that extra support, that extra training, and really need the community to understand why what they're doing is an essential service to the community, and why they need to be so much more than handing out diapers or formula. Baby wipes, again, those are important to a mom. But as you know, and what you've experienced here and have done so beautifully, Rich, is, we have to be a full service clinic really to these women who are looking for an alternative to Planned Parenthood.
Well, and since you brought it up, let's talk a little bit more about AAAHC accreditation. And with Save the Storks' help, we're actually currently pursuing that ourselves. And Lord willing, by Q1 of next year, we will have attained that. But for us in Colorado, and I think this is why you've stepped into this space, it can have a certainly independent validation of the medical credentials that we know that we have. And I would say could have some level of protection in terms of, this is a clinic that's buttoned up, that's met this high standard. But what are you seeing in terms of the difference that kind of independent accreditation can make, especially in a state like Colorado?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did a lot of research before we decided to take on this effort. We went to the state of Washington, which is very similar to the state of Colorado. They are trying to shut down pregnancy centers left and right. And there were a few centers, one in particular, where we went and studied how they did it, how complicated the process was, what their medical team and board members thought about it, and how their CEO felt about it. And so after doing all of that research, talking to our medical team, our medical director, who's Dr. Carice Hudson, and our COO, Annie Humphreys, we made that decision that this was something we could, in fact, implement with our partners and get them at least on the path to doing that assessment, and then working with the board to see if it was worth like you said, it's a pretty lengthy process. There's hundreds of items, to check off. But we felt that it was worthwhile. And when we saw the success that the pregnancy center had in the state of Washington, and how other centers that didn't have the accreditation they weren't shut down, but there were definitely attempts at being shut down, and there were threats. And this one center that had the accreditation, they were really able to operate as normal, and the state kept their hands off this center. We thought this is important to do, especially in states like Colorado, New Jersey, California, states where the Attorney General is coming after PRCs for really no reason, but they're picking them apart. So we wanted it to just be completely solid, they're impenetrable, really.
Well, and even just going through the gap analysis and seeing those little areas that we need to refine, it's made us better. And so, beyond the protective value potentially of an independent accreditation like AAAHC, it's just sharpened further what we do. And so just grateful that you guys have stepped into that space.
Well, thank you. Yeah. All credit goes to our amazing team who had the foresight to put that together. I'll say too, like you said, it is helping centers to operate better. And, sometimes it's as simple as a handicap accessible entrance, right? And that's something I think maybe we don't always think about. Maybe a woman who's in an unplanned pregnancy and she's in a wheelchair. What if she can't get into the local pregnancy center? Those are things that we can definitely help with the gap analysis. And then in turn, I think if donors understood the need, there will be donors who step up and help with those situations, people in construction, people in home improvement. There's so many instrumental people in the community who maybe they feel like they can't help, but with that gap analysis, our centers can go out and really seek the donations and seek the experts to come in and help with the accreditation.
So you guys obviously support centers around the country. So that means you're in states coming alongside centers in the most pro-life states that have abortion bans, like a Mississippi or a Kentucky. And then you're supporting centers like us or centers in New Mexico that are allowing abortion until the moment of birth. So just in light of that, talk a little bit about how that support looks different based on a state's environment.
Yes. Well, in a post-Roe world, as we know, it's become a big challenge. And one thing we do is we make sure we have experts who can help us with those states. We are in 34 states right now. Our plan is to be in all 50 states. So, in the past where things were a little simpler, we could get support from the local police department or, some local city leaders. We now need to go to the leaders at the top, the key conservative, representatives who we need their support. And locally here we have Amy Stevens, who has really come alongside our ministry and identified those states where help is needed the most. She actually will go to the states. She'll walk the halls of the Capitol building. She was the former state majority leader here in Colorado. She understands how it all works. And she is going out and really, I would say, knocking on doors, shaking the hands of leaders, making sure they understand who the local pregnancy centers are, and making sure these state conservative leaders who maybe were voted in because they said they're pro-life, well, now she's saying we need to hold you accountable. You need to come alongside these pregnancy centers and put your money where your mouth is. And you need to fight for the protection of these centers. So I'm so grateful to her here locally. But again, she goes all over the country for us. I think recently she drove 1,500 miles in her rental car to go to different centers. She will bring the state leaders to the center and have a luncheon, really a meet and greet, because a lot of these state leaders who say they're pro-life, they've never stepped foot in a pregnancy center. So what she's doing is educating these leaders in both the blue and the red states to make sure they're connected and they can't ignore the challenges that are being faced, not only here in Colorado, but all across the United States.
So speaking of challenges across the United States, you all were party to a Supreme Court case where, as of the recording of this program, still hasn't been decided, coming out of New Jersey, one that Life Network and 20 other centers nationwide signed on to in an amicus brief. And the case involves First Choice Women's Resource Centers and then the Attorney General there in New Jersey, where the state came after that center in a very punitive way. Tell us more about that and where that case is.
Yes. So that's another instant of where Amy Stevens has really come alongside the pro-life movement, not just Save the Storks, but the entire movement. She introduced us to Andrew Nussbaum, who is with First and 14th here in Colorado Springs. He actually works with Alliance Defending Freedom on many cases, not just here in Colorado, but nationwide. But they identified, like you said, this punitive action taken by the Attorney General in the state of New Jersey against a pregnancy center. And what they were threatening to do would essentially close a pregnancy center down. It would be cost prohibitive, time prohibitive, something a center, a nonprofit Christian organization should never be threatened with. And Andrew recognized this and invited us to take action. And Rich, I have to say thank you so much for recognizing the need and for, making sure Life Network was part of this, because even though this is something in another state, you recognized that this is something that could happen any day now in the state of Colorado. And if we're not fighting and coming alongside our really brothers and sisters in Christ at centers across the country, then we're going to be facing the same challenge right here in Colorado. And as you know, this is probably one of the worst states, if not the worst state, for anything life affirming. And I come from California.
We're trying to out California.
It's terrible. And I still tell people oh yeah, there's, people fly into the state for abortions. Oh, they don't believe me. They don't believe me that there are late term abortions taking place. It's not that they don't believe me. They just don't understand how complex the situation has gotten and how the state leaders have they've literally gotten away with murder here in this state. And the fact that you stepped alongside other pregnancy centers across the country to fight for what's right in the state of New Jersey, I'm so grateful. Yeah, it's still in the middle. I think the case should be heard by early December. So I'll keep you updated. Well, you'll definitely be updated as part of the amicus, but let's just have your audience pray for this, every day, because again, if this case isn't fought now and isn't recognized as it's something that shouldn't even be going to the Supreme Court. But I'm grateful Andrew is taking it to the Supreme Court so we can fight it. But we have to show attorney generals in the states that are anti-life that we're not going to sit down and take this, and they can't get away with this.
Well, and in trying to force any nonprofit, but in this case, a nonprofit pregnancy center in New Jersey to disclose all their donor records and all of these things that they were being asked to turn over. I mean, really, it seems like one of the wins of cases like this is to distract and slow our work and, force us to fight and oppose this legally and take our eye off why we're here. I mean, do you think that's part of it?
Oh, it absolutely is part of it. And the fact that they're attacking and threatening donors, like you said, many donors are successful business people. They have, families they want to protect. They have assets that are really leaving a legacy for future generations. These are Christian business owners. And, now some of them are just conservatives who believe in life and believe in the work of the pregnancy centers. But the fact that this case could threaten the privacy of donors, they're not doing that with any other nonprofit group, to my knowledge. It's their way of trying to scare us. It's a scare tactic. It's a way to slow us down. And even right now with this case, look at all of the time and effort you and the other 20 plus pregnancy centers have put into it, what, Andrew Nussbaum and Amy Stevens are putting into this case. It's taking us away from other life-affirming work we could be doing, but we want to protect the donors. We want to make sure donors never feel that their privacy will be compromised or that their businesses will be exposed. And because, of course, we know once that business is exposed and opened up, that opens them up to other really intrusive methods from the government. The government can go in and see who's making a donation to a local PRC that is just helping women choose life. There's nothing sinister about the work anyone's doing. It's something that we celebrate as the freedom that we have as Americans and that right to life that every American has, even the preborn child. But the fact that, the Attorney General in New Jersey is threatening to open up donor records for this small PRC. Donors could run and hide and think, well, I can't do that anymore because I have to protect our business that's employing hundreds of people in our community. That's why it's so important we fight this and that your listeners are praying for this.
Well, and I agree. I'm so glad that they fought back immediately. And it's certainly, as you said, part of why we and 20 other centers said we stand with you in this, because we would never just reflexively say, okay, here's our donor file. That's not something we're going to do. And shifting gears, what is a big initiative at Save the Storks that, as you look ahead 2 or 3 years, you see is going to make a really big, meaningful difference that maybe people don't know about?
Well, I would have to say our digital highway, which is really like an Amazon marketplace for life affirming work and resources. We have really, it's 24/7 access to women's healthcare and women's resources. We launched a physical version of this in Orange County with the Rescue Mission, but it's a nationwide, really a digital highway that women can access, again, 24/7. We have 24/7 access to nurses who are helping women who are facing an unplanned pregnancy in the middle of the night, and we want to connect them with their local pregnancy center. We're already seeing higher conversion rates with those appointments, which is beautiful. We're making sure we have those 8 pillars of care. So that's housing, education, daycare, other resources that a woman needs so she can choose life and choose it abundantly. It also has AI. So we're able to chat with women 365 days a year, 24/7, and really make sure her questions are being answered, but in a life-affirming manner. So with questions that are making sure that woman knows the truth about whatever the question is. So it might be an unplanned pregnancy. It might be questions about just general reproductive health. We want to reach, teenage girls and women all the way through their reproductive journey, and again, connect them with one of the 15,000 resources we have across the United States. Many of these resources are, including Life Network. We've got pregnancy centers. We have churches that are helping with moms and dads in their local communities. We've got counseling. We've got, just programs, really, you name it. If there's childcare in the community, if there's job programs, sometimes there's even government assistant programs that can help a woman, like I said, escape an abusive relationship, protect her children. Maternity homes are listed. So it's just a wonderful resource that is really going to, I think, show women that we love and care about them. And it's something that we want to do for her entire life, not just during her pregnancy, which, again, you're already doing at Life Network, Rich. You're making sure that woman is taken care of during her pregnancy. But I've seen firsthand how you're helping find apartments and furnishings and making sure she gets transportation. So, it's just been awesome to see that, and a true blessing to bring this digital platform to the United States.
Well, Diane, on behalf of our team here at Life Network and centers around the country, I just want to say thank you for your leadership in the area of valuing life, and also just the way that Save the Storks is committed to coming alongside pregnancy centers like ours around the country. And just in some of the things we've talked about, we need all the help and support, encouragement and prayer, and just meaningful strategy that you guys have poured into it. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Rich. Again, you are really the beacon of hope in our community for women. And what I've seen you do since I've been in the movement the last 7 years has just been nothing short of impressive. And you really are an essential part of this community. I don't know where Colorado Springs, and really the entire state of Colorado, would be without you and just all of your miraculous services that you're providing. So thank you.
Well, it's a privilege serving with you in what is a difficult state. So, Diane, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. God bless you, Rich.
If today's conversation encouraged you, would you share this episode with a friend? And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a story of life and hope. And thanks again to today's sponsor, Christian Brothers in Rockrimmon. Thanks for listening to the Lifecast, where we celebrate life, speak up for the voiceless, and highlight important life-affirming work. And I hope you'll join us next time, where our guest will be my friend Jared Anderson, who, in addition to being an accomplished worship music artist, is leading an amazing ministry for Downs and special needs children in Colorado Springs, and so looking forward to hearing from him. For executive producer Mike Segovia and producers Serena Dillon, I'm Rich Bennett. Thanks for being with us for this episode of The Lifecast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Lifecast. To find out more about Life Network, go to elifenetwork.com. Once you're there, you can check out the many outreaches we have available. From our men's services to our Bridges of Hope support program, you'll be sure to find a helping hand for yourself or someone else in their time of need. Also, we have many ways to get involved here at Life Network. Simply click on the Get Involved tab and see all the opportunities we have available to serve. We appreciate your prayers and support for this ministry. Find out how you can come alongside us by going to elifenetwork.com. Just search the top of the index for the green Donate tab. Thank you for listening in today. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Lifecast. The Lifecast is a ministry of Life Network.
You may know that Life Network operates 4 pregnancy centers across the Colorado Springs area where we offer free medical services and compassionate, non-judgmental support to those facing unplanned pregnancies. But our care doesn't stop there. Through our Education for a Lifetime program, we're speaking truth and hope in local schools, sparking healthy conversations around relationships, mental health, sexual integrity, and suicide prevention. Our family thrift stores provide quality, affordable goods while supporting our life-affirming mission. Bridges of Hope offers post-abortion healing through biblical truth and compassionate community. Our parenting program walks alongside new moms and dads, equipping them with resources and mentorship. And our men's services and fatherhood programs empower fathers through one-on-one support and practical education. Through these programs, Life Network is transforming lives with love and truth. But we can't do it alone. Partner with us through your prayers, your giving, your voice. Go to elifenetwork.com to come alongside us today.